Hi friends, welcome to tutorial days, and in this video you are going to learn about React Hooks, that is context API. We have already discussed about use effect in the last video, so in case you have missed that video, then I recommend you to check that video also. That's also a hook. Apart from that, we also discussed about use state in which you have learned that how you will maintain the hook. In this video, we will know with example how this context API works and why do we need this context API. Now let's see this example. Normally what happens in React.js, if you want to pass the data through props, then it is possible to pass the data from parent to child, and parent to child. It's not possible to pass the data from child to parent. It's not possible to pass the data from this child to a parent. Also, it's not possible to pass the data from child to child. That means in parallel component, it's not possible to pass the data. So in this way, context API is helpful. We can pass the data from sibling to sibling also. And let's see one more scenario here. Suppose you need the data from component number 1 to component number 5. Okay, there is some data which you require. You have set the data in component number 1 and you need component number 5, maybe component number 4. So without context API, how you can pass the data? Through props. Through props, how you can pass the data? Through props, you can pass the data from a parent to first component to second to third to fourth to 5. Then finally the data will reach to here. As you can see, unnecessarily we have to pass the data in component number second, third, and fourth to pass the here. It would be really very good if we could pass the data directly from component number 1 to 5 or wherever it is required. So suppose these are only 5 components, but suppose there are 100 components, then how is it possible to pass the data from component number 1 to component number 100? So it is very difficult to pass the data from component number 1 to 100. So in this way we can maintain the data from component number 1 to component number anywhere we want to send through context API. So that is why we will be using context API. Now if you want to use this hook, then first you need to import through this create context. Okay, in the header section you need to call this create context, and then we will use this function to create context and we will pass some default value here. So this is step number 1. Okay, first we need to import and then set the value here. Initial value we will set through create context. That means we are creating the context. And then step number 2, we will set the value which we have created and pass the value through this value section. And we will pass the value through context provider. Okay, so this is step number 2. After we have created and we have passed the value, now the turn is to receive the value. So now to receive the value you need to use context here. We have already imported this create context, then now you need to import this use context, and then suppose we have created this context, say context and passed through context provider, then you can get the value through this one use context in here, then finally you will receive the value. So these are 3 parts which are involved in context API. Now let's go here and then let's create a project. npx create react app use context context. I think uppercase will not be allowed, so we need to use lowercase only. Context. Okay, so we are going to create a new project here. Okay, cd will not be required, of course. Here only npx. So first let's download the project here, and in the meantime let's open here in Visual Studio Code, open folder, screen by D drive, then React class, ReactJs class, this ReactJs class. So use context. Where is that? Oh, it's still loading, I think. That's why. ReactJs class. Oh, there's 3 ReactJs class. Okay, use context. So still it's downloading. As you can see, it's only showing here node modules. So let's let it download first. Okay, now cd, then npm start. In the meantime, let's go here in src, then app.js, and okay, now it has started. Now let's go here and let's create a function here, return, then header, just delete everything. It's not required. Yeah, it is this, and then this one, right? So inside this we will call another function. So say we are calling here home, function home, then here return, and this function will return here again something, and say about, this one is also return, then services, okay. So we have function app, home, about, services, right? And this way we will put here some data, and we will try to access in this services component. In here we will put here const username, and we want this data from this component to the services component without context. We are talking about this without context. So what is the problem with without context, and how we can solve this through context API. So now here we can access here home, then user name equals to here username. So username, this one. So let's close here this home, and then okay, so let's change here home, then let's write here main content. Okay, and then we can pass here children, that common here, and of course we will be passing like this here as an object. So in here we will access this, then you can see showing here main content, right? So that means what, we are passing this data which is this main content from this component to this one, to home component, through this then you can see we are accessing this once again. Now let's go here, and this function about we will call here once again. Like this, and let's close it. In here, actually this is not required here. In here app, then username equals to this username. So that means what? We are passing this username to this function, to this component, and from this component to about component. Once again, inside about component, we will call this service component here, services, and services, yes, services, and here username equals to username. And finally, this username data we will access here in this service page. Here, this way we can access here. And yes, at one more point, we need to pass here username, of course, here also, and here also as a props. So it will be like this: username, and here as well. Okay, so this username is coming from here to this function, this component, and from this component it is passing to this component, from this component to ultimately the service component. So let's write here rather div, and then div close. Okay, now let's check. Alright, you can see it is showing here main content and username. So how it's passing, you can check from here. The data Umar Rahman is inside this app component. So how it's passing? First, this data we are passing to this component here, home component, right? And from home component we are passing to about component. From about component, this one we are passing to service component, and then finally it reaches to from this about component to service component, and we are able to access this value here in the last. So the problem, you can see clearly that without passing we cannot access into its child component. So now here the API context API will be helpful for us. Let's comment this code and let's start. Here import React, then use state and use context. Use state, we have already discussed about this. In case you have no idea about what this use state is, I have recorded a separate video about this use state, so please refer to that in case you don't know. And use context, we are going to use this for using context, and then here we'll write, let's take example here, const employee context, then create context, react.create context. To here we are creating a blank context file. Now here function app, then render, and below app let's write here an object const empty data, then id, here id equals to 23, then name Kareem, location Kolkata, then salary 1 2 3 4. And here below this we will write use context, sorry, use state. Let's write here const employee data equal to use state, and then we will pass this emp data as a parameter here. And inside render, let's write here just write here empty tag, then h1 tag, welcome to context API example. Okay, and below here context provider, employee context provider, and value here, value equals to employee, and then close here context provider. So this value, this emp data value is coming here, and from here this data will be passing from here. So this is our parent component app. This app function is a parent component. Now we will create a child component. Inside this context provider we will have two departments, says employee, and then here will be salary. Okay, so these two are a child component of this app component, which we will create here below. Let's write here function employee, then inside this of course there will be render, and here inside render we'll just put here empty tag, then inside that we can put other tag as well. And below this we will write here use context, the context that we have just created. To fetch this value we will write here let context equals to use context employee context. That means what? We can fetch now value of this one here through this employee context dot provider. So what are the stages? The first one is, the first step is here to declare here use context, then let's create empty context here. After that we have taken here data, normally this will come from JSON API, then we have taken here one use state, and then the value of this employee data, this one, we are passing through this one to these two components. So whichever more component you need, you wrap between these opening and closing tag. For example, there are more like technical department, or maybe some other department can be of employee, so those department or those components can be incorporated inside this provider. So now here we are getting the value here, and now here we can fetch the value. So we will write here, let's take one div close, so h3, then employee name equals to here context dot name. So this is the name, right? Yeah, context of name, and employee name, employee location. If you want to employee location, in that case we will pass here location. Okay, so now take another this one, so just let's copy this and paste here, name it as salary, then this will be same, and here name and contact. In place of this we'll write here salary. Okay, let's put one more here, employee ID as well. So employee ID, then ID here, ID, name and salary, and finally export default this app. So now you can understand the step number one is this. This is step number one. Then step number two is to create this one, and then we are filling the data here in use state, and this value now we will fetch here, pass here through context provider. So this is step number three, and the same value, this one will be fetched in this one also and below one also. So you can understand that. Suppose now let's check this into the browser. So hope you understand this, and now let's click on terminal and then npm start. Oh, there is some problem here, will be return rather than render. So return, because we normally are used to class component, that is why in class component we use render and then return. In functional component we directly write here return, not render. Okay, so now let's check in the browser, and you can see here employee name Kareem, location. So we'll have to check then employee ID. This is the second component, right? So location is first one. In this case locations, I think, okay, location is L capital, that is Y. So here, yes, just let's write here H1 second, or we can say employee component. This one we'll write here salary component. Okay, so as you can see, this is employee component, this data is coming there, and this one is. So in case we directly need the data in salary only and not this one, then what we can do, just let's remove from here, this remove, and also let's remove this data and use context. So this way, as you can see, that we are not dependent for third level of component. We can access the data just passing whichever component we require. Now in the next example we will learn how to pass the data from child to parent component. In this case we are accessing the data from parent component to child component, right? But how we can access the data, or how we can make modification or make changes into the data of parent component. So in this example I will show you that how a child component can update the data of parent component. So now let's comment this example as well, and we will start another example in which we will update the data from child component to parent component. So here once again we need to import this React, then component, use context, then use state, and use effect. This time we will be calling. Okay, and then here same thing will be, we will call here this const. We will initialize, or we will create here create context. So initial value we can provide here null, and here let's name it as theme context. Now function app, then here see function add, then return here, and once again let's write here fragment component, empty component. So this is double one. Yes, this should be, this one is return, and then curly braces. Okay. Yes, so now here let's declare a use state here, and initial value of use state we are putting here green. Okay, and inside the return we will pass here theme context, this one dot provider value, and this one. So what is the difference this time? This time we are passing the value as well as function. Okay, in parameter we are passing two things because we need to update the parent component through this handler or this function to this value. That is why. And inside here once again we will write here, so let's change here, we will write here that color dot color. That means whatever color will be initial color, it will show in the parent component. And here we will declare one child component, that is change color. Change color component we will create here, which is inside this theme context, so that we can access the value of this one, and from this component we can update the value of parent component. As you know, in ReactJs by general it's not possible to access the value from child to parent. It's possible to access the value from parent to child, but not reverse side. But here using context API it's possible to access the value of child component to parent component. Now let's declare a function change color. Now here return and here in this function we will declare here color set color, same thing, color set color here, and we will write here use context. This time we are creating context here and setting the value of color here. Now this value, the value which is passing here through value, we will use here through use context, and the value will be stored to color. And let's write here use effect, and then here one more function, then this we will write console.info context updated, so it will show the updated color here. And also in parameter here we will pass empty, inside array we will pass color. That means this use effect will only work when this value, based on this value. So in case you don't know how this use effect work and also why we are passing this value, then I have a separate video regarding use effect, regarding this. I have a separate video and I have explained that in detail. So in case you have missed that video, then you can check use effect video as well. And now let's create a function which will change the color. Okay, so inside this function there will be, this function will update the color. If user will click on this, and let's write here one button, then button change color from child component. Okay, so we will change the color from child component, and the color will be changed in our parent component. So as you can see, it is possible to access the value, send the value from child to parent using this huge context API. So here we will write click, then on click here will be this function we will call this one, and also we can write here style equals to color, then color, whatever color we will put it will show here also. So let's write here better, background color, not like this, background color, background color, then inside the color, and of course this finally it will be here. And yes, now let's check the browser, and you can see this is child component and this is parent component. The initial value is green. Here you can see the initial value we have put here green, right? This is initial value of parent component, which is displaying here via this here, and from here it is displaying the color. Now this set color, we are passing two things. One, the value, that means attribute, as well as function here, right? So this color is displaying here. Now this function can be handled through child component, and how that here set color, this set color, we will set the color and it will update it. That means what? This through a huge state of child, the parent component, that means this use state function or API can be controlled through child component, and we are changing the value of from child component to the parent component. So guys, this is very I tried my best, I try my best to provide as much as possible examples so that you can understand the things better. So hope you understand that what is this huge context API and how this works. So especially in brief, we can say that huge context API is very important to access the value from child to from parent to child, as well as it is possible to update the value from child to parent component. So hope you like this video. Still you have not subscribed my channel, then please subscribe, and also please like and bell button, and also write your valuable comment in comment box. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.